There's a lot to unpack. So let's start with the plot. The movie centers around Clawdeen, just turned 15, and has decided that she wants to go to Monster High. In this reality, her father is human, and her mother is a werewolf. Therefore, she's only considered half monster.
Your mother was a full monster. I'm human, and I'm sorry, sweet. They don't accept half monsters.
Well, they accepted me.
So her father doesn't want her to go. But because she really wants to, he decides that she should go to Monster High, but not tell anyone about her human half.
You've really got to keep that part of your secret.
When she transfers over into Monster High, we then meet Draculaura, who's struggling with her identity as she tries to impress her father with her good grades, but is crushed under the pressure of his expectations.
And 92.
92? You may as well have failed.
I tried, Dad. I really did.
You must apply yourself more diligently, Draculaura. Shape up, or there will be consequences.
And we meet Frankie, who is only just newly made and is trying to make friends. These are the three central characters of the movie. We also meet Cleo, Lagonna, Deuce, Heath Burns, Abby Bominable, Ghoulia, but most of the characters are background to the main plot. So what happened? Clawdeen learns that in the past, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde went to Monster High, but because he was only part monster, he was rejected by Monster High and put back in the normal world. He was eventually killed by humans. This causes her to fear for her own safety and her place where she finally feels accepted. So, she decides to go and learn about a secret lab where Hyde had created a potion that was supposed to make him fully monster. While researching in the library, Clawdeen is startled and frightened. She begins to transform into her human form. And in that moment of fear, she is discovered by Frankie. Frankie works to calm her down, and she seems to not care about Clawdeen's so-called horrible secret. While doing this, Frankie discovers that whenever Clawdeen has an elevated heart rate, her fight or flight reaction is to turn back into being human. An interesting transformation that takes out her bountiful hair and also removes her nail polish. After Frankie learns about what's going on with Clawdeen, she decides to help her to find Hyde's lab, which is hidden in the school cemetery. While at the school cemetery, they discover that Draculaura is practicing witchcraft, something her father said earlier was a dirty human practice that had to be eradicated at Monster High. Accepted rather than condemned by the other ghouls, Draculaura decides to join the gang. Together they work to gather the ingredients for a spell that will open the door. On their way back to school after curfew, they're discovered by Headmistress Bloodgood, Mr. Comos, the teacher, and Cleo.
Betrayed. Our unnatural order has been offended.
As they've come to confront Draculaura for using witchcraft. Before they can really get into it, the school reacts to the presence of a non-true monster heart, because in this version it is a living school.
School is a lie.
And drops a gargoyle almost on Cleo. Clawdeen saves her, and they are sent off to bed. While the others sleep, Clawdeen escapes back to the normal world because she thinks she's too much of a danger for her friends. Her friends don't care and follow her to the human world, where they convince her to come back when they discover that Clawdeen's human form allows her handprint to open the door to the lab. They discover the potion that Holt had created, and for the first time, Clawdeen reflects on what she should do. She reflects that by taking the potion, she would be losing the part of her that comes from her father, a father who loves her. Then, spoilers happen. To find out what happens at the end of the movie, stay to the end of this video where we discuss the closing in my overall review. The next thing we should talk about when thinking about this movie is the characters and how they are changed and how they stay the same. Let's start with Clawdeen. In this version, Clawdeen is not obsessed with fashion, and she skateboards. Additionally, she's an only child, so there is no sibling or living mother which excludes Claude and Howleen, Claudia, and her mom from being characters in future movies. Her personality remains mainly unchanged. Next, there's Draculaura. Draculaura has a funny change in personality. In this version, she starts out as very standoffish.
You know the type of monster who loves to be surrounded with others so they feel a real sense of connection and community? Yes, that's why I'm here. Yeah, I'm not one of those monsters. So please, keep to your side of the room and I won't have to suck all your blood out. And no garlic, even garlic powder, or anchovies, because they're gross.
And then, over the arc of the story, she becomes more comfortable around Frankie and Clawdeen and becomes more like our traditional understanding of how Draculaura behaves.
Don't be afraid, I'm a vegetarian.
Next is Frankie. In this version, Frankie is no longer the center character. She is no longer the main character through which we hear the story.
What do you want to know? First week at Monster High? Loved it. Hated it. Everything was new, including me. I was about to turn 16. Yeah, 16 days old.
Now she has a different personality that is more close to traditional Ghoulia, where she focuses on being a genius, but she is less outgoing and less confident than she is in the cartoons. Additionally, throughout the movie, you can see how she's coded as being autistic, which I think is a cool thing that they've added to the storyline.
Hello, fellow students. I also have a phone. I said I also have a phone. I think they actually communicate with each other using the phone. You know, social media and stuff. Oh, that makes sense. I need some social media. You're a genius, just like me.
It's a celebration. You just put your hands together.
High five! Wow, this is a pickle. How can I help? Chatter up, make conversation. Yes? Speaking of bathrooms, did you know that the flushable toilet was invented in 1596 by Sir John Harrington? He happened to be the godson of Queen Elizabeth I, who, as we all know, became one heck of a ghost. Fascinating. My brain has all these parts. I know it works differently from everyone else's, but I feel like there's a rule book for all this that I never got to read.
But overall, a lot of what's fun about Frankie's personality, I think, has been taken from the characterizations of Ghoulia. Overall, aesthetically, they fit into the style of their cartoon alter egos, sticking to their color themes and patterns. But it's a missed opportunity that none of the characters wear exactly an outfit from a former doll line or a current one. Additionally, Frankie doesn't have her prosthetic leg, which is a key feature of the new design. Other characters included in the narrative, but only minimally, are Cleo, who sticks a lot to her personality and remains bitchy.
So much for me. I thought I should do something nice for her. But don't tell anyone. It'll totally ruin my rep. Aw, who's this little doggy with her purple claws? Who you calling little? Okay, let's go before she gives us mange.
We also have Laguna, who is now considered Cleo's bestie, instead of Ghoulia, a different change. Overall, aesthetically, I like the way that she's been designed, and she matches much more closely with the G3 design of Laguna, but they have altered her personality slightly, where in the cartoons, she's more of a mature, thoughtful figure.
Do it for me. Do it for you. You can't let their prejudice run your life. You gotta stand up for yourself. Yeah, you're not Cleo's servant, right? It's an injustice. You gotta take action.
In this, she's more of just a basic sidekick. Additionally, we see Heath Burns. His personality fits in with his cartoon personality.
Ready to make some more mischief? Yeah, I missed you, man.
But he has the worst spray painting of his hair. His hair is supposed to be spray painted red, and it just looks terrible throughout the movie. Additionally, there's Ghoulia, who sticks pretty close to her new G3 design. She's green, she's got blue hair. Her outfits are closest to the design of her doll, but they do differ. Additionally, Ghoulia does speak in this version.
Will you get off my bed? I'm trying to sleep.
Which I think is a misstep, because I always enjoyed that Ghoulia was nonverbal, mainly, and that she was viewed as the most intelligent character in Monster High. I thought that was really important representation, so to have her speak is a disappointment for me. Additionally, we had Abby Bominable. She barely appears in the movie, but she is in background scenes, and they did give her an aesthetic that matches her character, but we don't really get a close look at her personality. The last person we can talk about, Deuce Gorgon. Deuce Gorgon is interesting because they've changed a lot about his outfit, but it still sticks with the snake style. Much closer to the aesthetic of the G3 doll than the G1 doll. In the cartoons, I never found he had a lot of personality. He seemed mainly to be... So in this movie, it's nice to see him have a little bit more of a personality.
Clawdeen, there is a very attractive monster staring at you.
Also, interesting enough, he is the one that is interested in Clawdeen, and Clawdeen is interested in him, and it is very cute. Next, positives and negatives. One positive of the movie is that some of the background monsters look good. The negative is that a lot of the background monsters look very bad. And then you have the monsters that we know doing cameos, and then the rest are kind of generic painted people in the background. It's a shame more effort wasn't put into the background characters, as one of my favorite parts of the cartoon was watching for the background for fun characters to walk by. And it wouldn't have been difficult to do. Most of the characters in the background could have been vampires, and it could have been pretty simply done. A positive is that they do really cool world building in some parts of the movie. For example, this announcement. And for example, the vending machine full of monster treats. A negative in other points is that the school interior has a weird aesthetic with 60s and 70s style spaghetti lamps. I like when they do traditional Monster High puns like...
Is that the new box makeup? Don't Cleo patronize me.
Listen to Cleo. She's got mummy issues.
Other times the writing is less effective. For example, in this scene about buttons and eyeballs.
What does it say? It says, push. It's a button! It's an eye. It's a button! It's an eye. It's a button! Try it. It's an eye. And a button! Both right.
Additionally, for a musical, there's not a lot of singing in this musical. There's about 5 songs. Most of them are passable to okay. One song that's really good is, I'm going to call it I by Deuce and Clawdeen. It's very cute. Additionally, there's a lot of dancing in this movie that seems often out of place, but in one moment where Clawdeen is feeling out of place and therefore is visually out of step with the dancing of the other characters, really works. Overall for the movie, I think the casting worked pretty well, except for the casting of Mr. Komos. Not because the actor is bad, but because the actor is so close in age appearing to the other actors who are supposed to be 15 that it comes off as weird. The classic problem of 20-year-olds playing teenagers. In addition, the script writing is often funny, including small jokes or details that create a strange world, such as
Alan Turing's cortex. He cracked the German code in World War II and saved the world.
which creates the existence of World War II in this reality. At one point, Abby and Heath are playing football with a literal foot, and Abby asks, "When do we eat it?"
After the game.
It is also implied at a later point that the monsters eat humans.
Stolen limbs to the biology department. And if you have eaten a limb and cannot return it, please digest it and disregard this method.
But no one seems to have any qualms about this. To close with the final summary of the film and a review. When we last were discussing the story, Clawdeen was at the moment deciding if she should take the potion that would remove her human half. At that moment, she is interrupted by Mr. Cosmos, who tells her not to do it and to give him the potion. She decides to listen and gives him the potion. Dun dun dun! He reveals that he is not Mr. Cosmos? He's not Mr. Cosmos, but is really the son of Hyde. Taking the potion, he becomes puffed up, steroid-like, with extremely long horns, becoming what he describes as the ultimate monster. And it turns out that he has this entire time wanted to destroy Monster High for what they did to his father. The girls are able to escape him, even though he zaps away Draculaura's vampire powers, but they can't escape out the next room, which requires them to get help from the outside, where they are rescued by Deuce and the other background characters for this final confrontation. Deuce tries to protect Clawdeen and use his Gorgon vision, but he has his power zapped away from him, and now Mr. Hyde has Gorgon power, turning him to stone instead.
You start finally got to stare into your eyes.
By doing this, Clawdeen's fight-or-flight instinct is triggered, and she reverts back to being human. Everyone is shocked for 4 or 5 seconds, and then gets over it. At that moment, Cleo, turning out to also be a genius, hatches an instant plan and gives her phone to Clawdeen. He tries to zap her powers, but she reveals that she's fully human. So he tries to turn on his Gorgon eyes against her, but she flips up the phone to reflect him, turning him to stone. At that moment, all the adults in the monster world show up. They see Clawdeen is human. They have a moment of freak out, and then it cuts to the next day, where Clawdeen is waiting on the steps for her father. She goes into the school one more time to say goodbye to her friends, but at that moment, Mistress Bloodgood says that she has a true monster heart, and that humans can go to Monster High now, and it's all fine. And that's the end of the movie, except for a small scene that shows that we might get a sequel, as a mysterious long-nailed person reveals that Draculaura is the secret to destroying the vampires. What a movie. Overall, I would say, is it a good movie? No. Is it fun? Yes. Did I like it? Yes. But I think it has too many problems to be really a good film. It has the problem of using the metaphor of people being half monster and half human, which relates to people in real life being biracial. I think they mishandled that metaphor. No one in the movie says anything against humans being evil. Even Clawdeen, even though she has a loving relationship with her father, doesn't protest against everyone saying bad things about humans. For example, the racism song against humans. Also, additionally in the movie, Mistress Bloodgood is racist to Gorgons.
I've got my eye on you this year, Deuce.
Gorgons are always trouble.
And it seems that everyone else also hates Gorgons. And even when Deuce is confronted with this fact, instead of defending Gorgons, he says, well, I'm a good Gorgon.
You're a Gorgon.
Oh, yeah, but not necessarily that kind of Gorgon. I've got a strict no snake bites or turning anyone to stone policy. That's the slightly pretentious classes.
So there's a complete mishandling of all these opportunities. And even at the end of the film, the only reason that racism in theory ends at Monster High is because the school is fine with humans being there.
The school is clearly now fine. We've been wrong all these years.
Today we are rewriting the school charter. We no longer revile humans, at least not all of them.
There's no good summation of the film or good moral lesson at the end. This is a shame because in the cartoon, they touch on ideas about racism and handle it very well. For example, the relationship between Gil and Laguna being star-crossed lovers because of the racism of Gil's family.
Do it for me. Do it for you. You can't let their prejudice run your life. Sign my fear.
What? You're still clinging to those worn-out old prejudices? You're wrong about this. I'm not going to stop seeing her, so you're both just going to have to deal with that.
Additionally, the main premise of the movie doesn't make sense, that the monsters hate all humans, because a lot of the monsters are human-based monsters, like the zombies. Frankie's a human-based monster. Traditionally, werewolves are human-based monsters. Ghosts are human-based. So it doesn't make sense that they would hate all humans. Overall, I'd say if you like Monster High, it's fun to watch, but it's not going to win an Oscar, you know? Fun to watch, but they could have taken it further. Overall, I think the film is let down most by its writing, where at some points it seems to hit on real-world issues.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to chat up a rich alumnus so we can pay our salaries.
At other points, there are major failures in logic. For example, when Deuce says his romantic line,
At least I finally got to stare into your eyes.
a line that makes no sense because just because you have glasses doesn't mean you're not staring into someone's eyes. However, I do love the dynamic between the three main characters and their friendship. If the movie had really focused on that, I think it would have excelled much more.
So he just gave you the venom?
Yeah, it was that easy? Yes, we're friends.
He is so into you. What? Totally into you.
No.
Definitely into you. Really? Yes.
So what do you think? Have you seen the movie? Or are you going to see it now? Or are you not? Was it a missed opportunity not to have the girls wear the outfits of the dolls? Something I was really looking forward to? Do you like Deuce and Clawdeen? Or are you Deuce and Cleo? Thanks for watching. Stay playful.